exactly what the gap is. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm so excited. Akasha here. I am actually not there. I'm in Glastonbury right now. So we got here yesterday, and we've got Maria here. Hi, Maria.
Hello, we're on the same time at last, Nan.
Yes, right. So yeah, that was interesting. You were asking me the time, and I was like, yeah, I didn't have to go count it out on my hands. So, well, what we're excited to do is to share with you today some Mayan mysteries that we're going to take you on a very incredible journey in March. And before we dive into that, we just want to let you know that in like a little over a week, right, or about a week, I think now, we're going to be having our Stonehenge retreat. So if you would like to join in, we also have a couple of extra Stonehenge tickets. So is there anything you want to share about why this is epically awesome for people to join?
Well, private access in the morning is
Mm.
absolutely lovely. The sun, if it's out, casts some beautiful shadows. The stones glint, and it was really very special. We can go right inside of the stone circle with our private access and experience the earth energies, the megalithic energy, the spirit of place there as well. So it's highly recommended. And also included, if you just want a day ticket, you can come along to Woodhenge, which is nearby and was a key component in the ceremonial landscape of which Stonehenge stands amid.
Mm. Yeah, and that's interesting because it's like concentric circles, right? And that we kind of work with it like a labyrinth.
Yeah, I discovered that you can walk it like a labyrinth. It's actually, rather than concentric circles, it's like two C's put together.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you think of it like that, that's really accurate. But it does at first glance appear to be 6 concentric circles. But we're going to walk it as a labyrinth, and that equates to a musical harmonic, which I'll explain about on the day, and later probably in this talk about some musical harmonics. But it's well worth coming along. Come along, meet Nan, and also meet me.
Right? Yes. And then one more thing I want to share before we dive into our Mayan retreat is that in September, you're having the Mysterious Universe and it's available for live stream now, right?
Yes. Yes, it's available for live stream, so you'll be able to hear Nan's talk on the Mayan mysteries alongside David Furlong. He's been going to Egypt for more than 40 years, as well as Ilona Woods. She's a beautiful healer, and myself talking about particular types of earth energies. So you can find out more about that at the Avebury, AVE, BURY, the Avebury Experience.co.uk, and just scroll down to where it says live streaming and get your ticket and be a part of the conference and listen to all of these wisdom keepers that have gathered together for the conference. I can't wait.
Yeah, and the chance to get to see that from your own home for 19 pounds is pretty epic. So we'll make sure that you have the link. But if you have any questions, ask us because this is very, very exciting. I went last year and I got to hear everyone, and it's always really interesting. And of course, I'm very interested to hear yours. And this is all about pyramids, right? Temples and pyramids and initiations.
Yeah, yes, it is. I'll be covering the acoustics of some amazing stone circles and the hidden sound frequencies which are generated by particular stone circles, as well as some pyramid harmonics as well. So it's going to be great fun.
Yeah. So check that out. And then, so now let's dive into what we're really going to talk about today, which is super exciting. So it's interesting. I leave the Mayan land, and then I'm going to talk about the Mayan. But on the way out, I had some pretty epic experiences.
Well, let's talk about those now. What was the epic experience? And is the epic experience going to be like open to what we're going to experience? Please share.
Yes. So it's very interesting because I've lived there for 10 years now, and I've been going to lots and lots of pyramids on a regular basis. And I like the ones that don't have a lot of people and that you can climb. There's still a few left, and it's changing. And Chichen Itza, which most people know about, world wonder, UNESCO heritage site. And honestly, yes, it's pretty epic, but it's got a lot of visitors. And so I literally hadn't gone in the 10 years that I've lived here until I came back in November last year from England, and it started calling to me and calling to me and calling to me. So now it's like my home. I go there and I do the chants for the equinox and the solar serpent, and I know all the temples, and I'm working with Miguel Angel, the Mayan priest. And so it's very interesting because I met him in December, and I started to work with him. And we were talking one day about how the priestesses were trained. There's over 5,000 pyramids just in the Yucatan, probably more. So in the jungle somewhere, but that everyone was trained in the priest or priestess arts and the sacred arts to a certain degree because they knew they were divine and human, and they knew that that was the most important thing of their purpose, was to know their purpose. And so there was all of these pyramids, there were all of these sites that were for training and initiation. You didn't just go to Chichen Itza and show up at the giant pyramid and have your initiation. You had to work up to that, and so he was saying, well, the temples just don't call you until you're ready. And I started to crack up because I took 9 years for me to be ready for Chichen Itza to call me back. And then, so on the way, a couple of days before we left, I went to Itzamal, which is a place we're going to be going. And it's very unusual. It's a town that's basically been built on top of the pyramids. There's 19 pyramids surviving, about 5 or 6 that you can see, but some of them are in people's backyards. And some of them.
That's crazy, Nan.
It's so crazy. You can literally stay across the street, like a tiny little street from a pyramid. You can look at it, and you can climb quite a few of them. So I've been going there for ceremony at dawn, and I did that for my trip. And then we stopped at Chichen Itza to do a little ceremony to come here on this trip and to bring the energies here, because I did ceremony with Miguel Angel, and he'll be with us in March. So Maria and I are going to be taking you to different sites. And then for a few days, Miguel Angel is going to come. And he was not only the director at Chichen Itza for 4 years, so he had access to everything, but he's a Mayan elder. He's a wisdom teacher, and he's studied the codexes, and he knows the sacred meaning and the sacred words for everything around all of that. So I said, okay, I wanted to do a ceremony with him before I left. And he started to say, oh, well, when you were in England last year, the serpents underneath in the ground, underneath Stonehenge, I don't think I've told you this, they started moving, and they were moving when I was there. And I don't know when he was here. And he said, and also under the Tor, and he started talking about that serpent energy. So he's like, so you have to go to Chichen Itza to, have this connection again with Kukulkan, which is the feathered serpent, because that is part of what's happening. Is we're connecting the continents, we're connecting the earth energies, we're connecting the Kundalini and all those different things. So it was really amazing.
Wow. Well, that sounds like he's a real wisdom keeper. He's been a director, so he's had probably access to things that other people don't have access to. Would that be correct, Nan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting is that there's less and less and less access, that you can have now. Of course, you haven't been able to climb Chichen Itza in many, many years since they made it a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I did get to climb it when I was 19 years old, and go inside and sit on the jaguar throne. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but looking back, I'm like,
so what is the jaguar throne? For those that are listening, you sat on it, Nan. So describe that and kind of the energies of the place.
Yeah, so what's interesting about it is it's the famous pyramid. It's a 9-step pyramid. And not all the pyramids, not all the temples here are. They all have different meaning. There's temples to Venus, there's different shapes, but the 9-step pyramid is very relevant for a lot of reasons. The 9 stages of like a pregnancy or gestation is the birthing, the descending God, the 9 waves of consciousness that we've been to, that we're at the unity consciousness, which is represented by the top of the pyramid, and which we arrived in around 2011, 2012. And we're in that state. And but inside, so the jaguar and the serpent are the most important animal type guides for the Maya. They did not believe in God, and they did not believe in gods. They're not polytheistic. They actually just believed in oneness, and that all of us, whether we're a tree or a goddess or a body, a human, we're all aspects of that one wholeness. And so they called them more like lords and lordesses, meaning somebody who was an expert in something to come. And so what was really profound is that when he was there, not only was he studying with the Mayan elders and reading the books and going deeper, because we'll be told like Chichen Itza means the mouth of the well of the Itzas. And in one interpretation of Mayan, it does, but there's a sacred language. And that's what's fun about having a wisdom keeper with you, because he'll tell you, well, what it really means, you know. And so Itzas are the water witches. Those are the magicians from Atlantis that work with water. They bring the water from the clouds, and Itzamna was like Thoth, came from Atlantis to start that. And so what this was called the Mayan Cosmic University. And Uxmal, which is another site we're going to go to, was the Sacred Feminine University. And then there's one in between that's not open right now, Mayapan, where they would meet to work. And there's underground caves and passageways that connected these Sakbe, sacred roads. And they're all aligned, like we know about, you know, like your work with the pyramids. Everything is aligned to some kind of an energy or an orientation, or the solstice, or the equinox, and solar, lunar ones. It's quite amazing. So what he got to do was reinterpret everything. So when you go there and you hire a regular guide trained by the government, they tell you that they did human sacrifices. They tell you that this carving over here that shows somebody holding a head, you know, a severed head, is, you know, some ruler that was, you know, conquering his enemies, and all of these things. And yet none of it meant that at all. They didn't do any of that. Then, in fact, when he was a director there, he wanted to start finding out, where are all the bodies? Where's all the decapitated heads? Right? Where are they? There has to be burials. With the number of people they now know lived in some of these places, 30,000, 15,000, millions in Guatemala. They've found cities now that had, I don't know, 28 enormous pyramids and 1 million people who lived there. Where are the tombs? So his elders said, well, the Maya ascended to another dimension, like a lot of other cultures, and preserved their wisdom and left these places behind to show us how to get there. So all of the things to do with decapitation is cutting your ego off. It's killing your ego. So the higher that you went through the initiations, the more you had to be committed to that spiritual path in order to rise to the frequencies to go inside of the pyramid on these sacred times, because you would go in there and they had one priest who went in there for a certain number of days. I forget what it was. And when he came out, he was pure light, like sun. And one of the priestesses who was waiting died, like just fainted and died, because she was so shocked. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who, I don't know what they're called, Colby, these people in like Colombia who are put in a dark room, you know, for till they're like 16. And then they come out with these incredible intuitive skills.
And they read earth energies that way. I studied with a European master dowser that actually studied the earth energies with the Kogi. And the mamos, the priests there, if you will, you know, like into the earth, that's how they would decode where certain earth currents were, the serpent currents or the water currents, and a variety of different energies besides. So they were so aware of the energies, because if you had that kind of ability, you'd be literally selected to go into the priesthood and to be studying with the master dowser that studied with the Kogi was such an honor that I underwent.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, she had someone visited here where she is in Glastonbury. And yeah, sounds amazing. So it was similar to that. It was like this understanding that your birth chart, like if you were, my sign is Ish, which is today, it's the sacred feminine sign, and it's the sign of the jaguar. And if you were born in their culture, you would have been raised as a shaman. And the whole city, the whole village would have raised you as a shaman, not like your family saying you should be a doctor because I want you to be. It would be very, very different from that. So it's very interesting because the equality, the sacred meaning, like Ushmal is, I forget even now what they say it means, or they'll be like, this is the pyramid of the magician, and it's the pyramid of the moon, and it means the Ushmal means the city of the kindness of Mother Moon. And that's the true or sacred meaning. So when we go to these places, we'll be going, and Maria will be sharing like the earth energies and all the other things and how they relate to maybe to some other places like Egypt or something. And then I'll be giving you some of the history and doing activations. And then when Miguel Angel comes, he'll be taking us to some sacred places where he knows some caves and things for ceremony, and then to the sites to give us that deeper understanding of what some of these are, and what they really mean, and what happens. So when you go onto a sacred site, I think everyone gets a little bit of the particles of the information. But when you go in this way with the wisdom and the deeper understanding of what's actually happening, it's a very profound transformation.
So we're going to some of the main temples now that are like Chichen Itza, the famous ones, as it were. Are we going to go kind of as well as the amazing town with all of those pyramids in, for example? Are we going to get to go to some of the pyramids where you mentioned it was for training rather than, and then you went to the very large ones?
Yes. What we're going to be doing is this is a picture of Chichen Itza we were just talking about, and we're going to actually see this. I have a few more pictures I'll share in a moment.
Lovely.
And so we'll get through, and make sure you look at the other wonderful things that shows we did with Maria, and also did a show with Miguel Angel. You get to have little experiences, just beautiful, beautiful people. So this is Ekbalam, and Ekbalam is an incredible site. It means Black Star Jaguar. And the pyramid behind me in the background, you can climb to the top. The covering is not part of the original structure. It's covering the Jaguar altar, but you're able to climb most of the structures here. And the one I'm standing on, this one here, I believe was a school. Every time we go there, we have a very profound experience about that. This is the Jaguar altar, and it's a stucco altar, survived because they buried it. But above, they really work with the three levels of the cosmos, right? Above, the surface, and underneath, and they're all represented here. You have the winged ones, up there. We usually sit here and do a meditation, do an activation, and you can see here's from the top of the pyramid. So you're just like in this jungle. And if you could imagine, these cities just went on and on and on. There were really, there's these giant trees of life, other structures there, really exquisite. So we're very fortunate you can't touch it, you can't go inside there, but here's the angels, or the masters of light, they call them, above. And we'll be able to, you'll probably have your own experience, but everything here, like most cultures, has a lot of meaning, had a lot of symbolism. Itzamal, I was talking to you about. This is a pyramid on top of another pyramid. This is called Kinichkakmo, and that is the Holy Spirit. This is a giant macaw with the face of the sun, which represents the Holy Spirit, the Christ consciousness, which is what Kukulkan, this feathered serpent, also represents. Unconditional love, not evil in any context, and sacred knowledge. And we can climb all the way up here. And this is where I tend to go in the mornings and for sunrise. Then I don't have many more pictures, but this is the town I told you about. So this is a hotel, and that's a pyramid.
That's just crazy. I can't wait to see that now, because where else in the world would you get this? This is the uniqueness about this tour. Where else in the world?
Right. And it's so funny because I was like, how do I get to that one? And they're like, well, I don't know, go ask the lady over there. She has the shop. She'll let you go in the back and you can look at that thing. And I ended up actually staying here. This is from my room. So I was sleeping about, I don't know, like 20 feet from this pyramid. And they put a table on there so you could go sit on the pyramid and meditate. And this is interesting because this is from my balcony, and you can see the wall and the table on this side, that belongs to the hotel. And the next side belongs to the house next to it. So literally all along the road, you have houses and they're slices, and they each have their little section of the pyramid.
So in a way, it's kind of like going back to a time where the culture built these massive cities, and we are going to be in that experiencing and walking in the footsteps of the ancestors, but in a kind of modern day setting. But I think we can go way back in our kind of experiences. And as I'm sure you're aware, Nan, quite often it's like this beautiful energy comes up, linking us to these sites, and sometimes even linking us to a past or past life from one of these places as well. So it's going to be super exciting about, the experiences that we're getting. And I just find the idea of being amid 19 surviving pyramids, for example, astonishing.
It is. It's astonishing, and unfortunately, I don't have more, but pictures right here. But the city is called. It's a very sleepy jungle town, and it's called the Yellow City because that color you can see on the hotel behind me. The whole central colonial city is painted that color.
It looks beautiful. I mean, that alone looks beautiful, to experience the different types of cultures over the periods of time, because, I'm an alternative historian, and I just love to immerse myself into a different culture. And that's what I'm finding very exciting about listening to you, Nan, and going to experience this, is because you've got the top guide. And you're an expert on this yourself. So it's around top guys experiencing different aspects of that ancient culture.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is that, like I mentioned earlier, the Mayan priest was saying, well, that the sites call you based on what you're ready for. And then here you go. And this place, Itzamal, I went there once about 7 years ago with some friends, and they rented a van, and we spent like 3 days, and we went to 15 different pyramids. And they pulled into this town, and the main pyramid was built into a convent, and it's the center of town. And you can still see from the side, you can see the pyramid at the back. They didn't even paint it. You could just see it, but that's what most people go. And that's all we did. We walked into the convent and we left. And I was just pissed. I was in my era of just being pissed off at colonialism and angry over what they did. And so I didn't even know that 2 blocks away or behind me or behind that hotel right there was a pyramid. And I never went back until this year.
Well, that's super exciting again, because you've been drawn to these places. You kind of had a bit of the brakes put on. It's calling to you. It's certainly calling to me, and I can't wait to be immerse myself in your wisdom and Miguel's wisdom. And that I'm sure that listening to these conversations, people might also feel that calling, you know, from the heart, from the mind, from the past, you know. And I love the way that you've explained to people that, you know, because it's got a bit of a bad reputation for some, you know, the Mayan, we all think of, you know, hearts being pulled out with sacrificial knives. And I really love the way that you touched upon the truth behind that, and that it's about the ego, and that it's about cutting that off, because, you know, we're spoon fed by some history channels, by some historians, false history.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so false that even they officially have to say it, and they haven't changed the names. Like, they still call it, this is the castle and this is the king, the governor's palace. They didn't have any such thing, you know. But you can understand through their lens, that was their culture. So they assume, oh, the big guy with all the money is suppressing the other guy. But that's not how they thought. Now, was there human sacrifice? Yeah. So that was mostly Aztec, Toltec, other things, other aspects, but absolutely refused by the Maya. They would not do that. It was not a part of the original culture that that came, you know, for. So it's really a very interesting and fascinating thing. And my book that will come out in a year or two is about doing some of that, really dispelling some of these myths.
No, your book's not coming out in 2 years now, and everybody wants it before that, so it's gonna be a year.
Right? I know. Well, it depends on the publisher, but you know, the idea of dispelling those myths and
Exactly.
to give people the opportunity. So I will tell you that Miguel Angel, so he always hires a guide when he takes people, if he takes people here. And the guide, you know, which we will do too. I have a wonderful guide. He knows me. I'm like, okay, don't tell us that bullshit story now. But he has these really cool pictures, though. He has of, like, there's 3 pyramids inside of that pyramid, you know, and the long skull. He has pictures of the long skull peoples of that area as well. So, but he hired a guide, and he told him, I'm paying you, but I'm going to be teaching the sacred history. So just come along with us. And at the end, the guide was crying, and he went up and he told him, I am so embarrassed at what I have been telling people, what I am sending out into the world. I am Mayan. I am from this tribe right here. And I have been telling these lies. I didn't know they were lies, but I've been telling that, and now that's going out. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to come have your own experience. Because as soon as I came here, I was like, I don't buy this. I don't buy this. This doesn't feel right. So I talk to the stones. I talk to the guides, you know, spirit guides. I talk to the land. I talk to the priestesses, which are really coming forward now, and have that idea and that opportunity to have your own experience of what it is like, because it's such pure love. So I was hoping to find a better picture. I have one, so I'll share with you right now of the Golden City. But I'll do a little video for everybody so we can see more of these wonderful. The town is actually just really charming. I mean, it's a little Mexican town, so, you know, it's the jungle town. It's the usual thing, but looks like this. This is just an average street, but it's the colonial town, and you've got everything's painted that color, and of course is in varying degrees of being fixed up, you know, and that. So what I love about this town, though, is that we can go up Kanichakmo. We'll go in, and I'm going to talk to this hotel, by the way, is called Archangel Michael Hotel. So that's kind of fun. And I'm going to see if they'll let us go up and do a little meditation or go up on top of that pyramid. And then there's 2 more that we can climb, really beautiful. One is the heart. So Itzamna was when he ascended the first pyramid I showed you on the summer solstice. He they took his body and they buried his head here, and they buried his right hand over there, and so each of the pyramids has a different part of him, and you can really feel it. Like, I didn't know which one was which when I first went, and when I went to Itzamatul, I could feel my heart chakra very powerfully. So you get to have at least 3 pyramids to climb and a few more to see. And this is a beautiful day from Merida. It's an hour away, and we get to have a lunch at this exquisite Yucatecan restaurant, which is amazing. And then we'll go to Uxmal. So let me see if I can skip real quick down to Uxmal. The next day we'll be there for 2 days, and we're going to go. I just have a couple pictures, and we'll be staying right across the street from it. We're going to go through that site with Maria. Miguel Angel is going to join us. The next day, he's going to take us to the ceremony. This is the Pyramid of the Moon. And it's also called the thrice built. So what's very common for the Maya is to build over their pyramids every 52 years, 52-year Venus cycle, their 52-year Pleiades cycle, and so on. And so, and they each have a different kind of a shape, and you can see how feminine this is oval. In front of it is something called the courtyard of the birds. And I'm not kidding you, it's not only carvings of birds, but birds, just vortexes of birds when you're there, just incredible. And then right next to that is what they call the nunnery, the Spanish, but it's the courtyard for the Sacred Feminine University. It's this enormous site. Up here where this picture is being taken from is a Temple of the Turtles and a Temple of the Sun. And so we're going to be right across the street, basically sleeping inside of the Maya Land Hotel, which was built from the stones of this pyramid, of this site, which was common. And we'll be able to go to the Chocolate Museum down the street. And they do have a night show if you want to go with lights. And we'll be going with Maria and I, and we'll be going to another site nearby called Kaaba, which is the incredible. I've had like more cosmic experiences there than anywhere. It's a whole.
Can we climb that one, Nan?
No, they haven't let anybody climb this one for a very long time. And
why are they? Is that because it became a UNESCO one, like the previous one we've discussed?
No, it is now, but no, they actually it's the stairs are not very well reconstructed. Oh. It's very steep, and so they haven't let anyone climb this one for quite a while. There is another pyramid on the same site called the Great Pyramid that you used to be able to climb. And we would go up there and do our activations there. And the whole top is carvings, very, very unusual carvings.
Why are they unusual then? What describe them?
They're unusual because they're each inside of a specific kind of like 2 pyramids like that. So creating this very sacred container. And they show how what they call it the descending gods. We're the descending gods. We came down to the top of the pyramid. A lot of the pyramid temples have literally like an upside down person that's called the descending god coming down. And at the end of this one, there's spaceships. There's like little aliens, sort of like where they came. The first time we went there, this little Mayan guy who lived there, grew up there. He followed us around and finally took us over and started showing us. So we used to go do an activation all across this whole wall because it was like these alchemical symbols that led you through like a process. And on the corners are the serpent heads, which you'll see everywhere. Like I said, that's Kukulkan, which is similar to Christ or the divine unconditional love. And so they depict human heads coming out of the serpent head and out of the jaguar head, and very common. They're not being eaten, although Miguel Angel would disagree with me. He says, of course the snake is swallowing you. Don't you want to be swallowed by sacred knowledge? Don't you want to be swallowed by unconditional love? Then you come out, like that. So, but to me, they're the guide. And so there's this head, coming out of this huge serpent mouth right there on the corner. And but this place is so full of magic, and we really palpably see the priestesses a lot here. And this is called Ruta Puk. So there's a whole bunch of pyramids all in this whole area on this route that are all connected by sakbe, the white roads that we have. And then we're going to go, let's see, I'll go backwards here. Then we will go to Yashuna. And I don't have any pictures of Yashuna, but you were asking earlier about some of those outlying temples. So the Yashuna is near Chichen Itza, and it's called the Temple of the First Moon, and hardly anyone has ever heard of it or goes there. And so, and it's beautiful. You can climb everything. There's no limits, and it's cleared. It's not epic like this, but you can go up the Temple of the Guardians, it's called. You can go into all these different places, and you can do ceremony. Because there is a law in Mexico that the Maya aren't allowed to do ceremony or have their own pre-Hispanic music at their own sites. So I used to set up altars and burn incense and do music and all kinds of stuff at these sites. So now we do it before we come in, or we do it in these sites where they don't mind us doing that. And so I was talking to Miguel, and I said, well, we'll go to Chichen Itza and then we'll go to Yashuna. And he said, no, we'll go to Yashuna and then we'll go to Chichen Itza.
So we'll be going to, like, in the footsteps of the priests and priestesses, going to one first, and then he advises to go to the other. Is that what you mean, Nan?
Yes. He says you have to go to the Temple of the First Moon before you go to Chichen Itza. So you're sort of being prepared. So first we're going to go to Itzamal, which is very, very old, the one with the town. And we'll experience those. And that's based on Itzamna, who's like the father from Atlantis, very loving guide, and Ishel, the Earth Mother. And then we'll go to the Feminine University, Uxmal, and we'll have those experiences. And the second day with Miguel, he's going to take us up a hill to some guy's sacred mountaintop and do ceremony before we go in. And then we will go to the Temple of the First Moon, and then we will come to Chichen Itza. And we'll be here for a couple of nights, staying again right in the town, right on the land of it. And this is what we're going to experience. So you can see the little triangles coming down to the serpent's head. And it's just a truly phenomenal experience. I've never seen anything like it. And it boggles the mind to even try to think about how they figured this out, because this is the equinox. However, what we're going to experience going on March 5th is the first day of what's called the 33 days of Kukulkan. All the tourists come on the 20th and 21st when you see 7 triangles, and here you only see 6 because this is my picture from March 5th of this year. And this is exactly—
That's amazing, Nan, because a lot of people, they do all think of that one date.
Yeah.
You know that it's all going to happen on that one date, and clearly, as you've just said, that isn't the case, and we can actually see this on March the 5th. It will be astonishing.
And no other people, they'll just be the normal people walking around, whatever. But I was there sitting at the base. Miguel Angel taught me the sacred mantras as each one of these. It takes about an hour and a half. Each one of these triangles takes 9 minutes to form. And there's a sacred mantra. So if you could imagine 50,000 priests and priestesses, the entire area around this huge plaza was tiled, the whole thing, and painted red. And they were all chanting for each thing for 9 minutes, activating the earth energies, activating the pyramid. I mean, it just beyond
activation.
Yeah, incredible. And so as it appears, so what it's showing you is that equal light and dark, right? And that's what this is each one comes down and they start to fill your different chakras with golden light. The head, the carved serpent stake, has the tongue going on to the ground, because this is the sun coming down, connecting to the earth, and then the energies going into the earth to activate her. And it's about that perfect balance of light and dark, above and below, masculine and feminine. And then they start to go back up again. So they form like this. And the whole time the head is in the sun, because the head represents the sun.
So that's going to be a real highlight for me. I mean, I'm so excited about seeing that and being a part of it, and with the wisdom keepers, with the chanting, with the understanding, and having that deep connection with the ancient past through your knowledge and Miguel's. So I really think it's the perfect mix. And just looking at those stunning photographs, to be there to experience that, I mean, the words are just will not be good enough to explain how those feelings are, I am sure.
Yeah. And, one thing was this year, so to do the 33 days of Kukulkan is this starts on the 5th of March and goes till about the 5th or 8th of April. And it starts with 6 triangles. By the time you get to the equinox, it's 7 triangles. And by the time you get to the end of the 33 days, it's forming 8 triangles.
8.
Yeah. So and then he told me to sit on the ground and get my root on the ground so that when I'm chanting, I'm talking to the earth and the earth energies and receiving that light coming down. And it really is. I did take my group on the equinox this time, and it's very exciting, but there's so many people and they make you stand very far away, so you do get that experience. But that's why I'm really excited about this, because we'll have this chance to do the activation, and it happens at sunset. So we'll be there in the morning, and Maria will be showing us her magic that she knows about the site. And then we'll go back in the afternoon in late in the day around 3:30. This will start to happen till about 4:30, 4:45. And it's just really profound. And then the next day we'll go with Miguel Angel, and we're going to go to the museum. He insists that we go to the museum because getting in front of the original pieces has a whole vibration of its own, right? And then we are going to go to Old Chichen. So this is a new area that Old Chichen Viejo is opened just last year to groups. You have to have a private tour, but it's a very different, and it's all based on, these are called the Atlanteans, and they're all over. They're holding up the houses. They're holding up altars. There's a turtle temple. This is one of the Atlanteans, and it very different energy, a lot about Tantra, a lot about the teachings of the Kundalini energy, which is really relevant right now, with the serpent year. So these are some of the things we'll get to experience at Old Chichen. And Chakmul, a lot of people have seen when I went there in college and got to go inside the pyramid. Actually, there's 3 pyramids inside, and they've never seen the original pyramid. And just this year, they've decided to start to excavate it using some of the new technology to see through the inner pyramid to see even what the original one was made of. So that will be interesting.
And have they got that information already, Nan?
They're just starting that project.
Just starting a project. So by the time we go there, will there be some news about that, or would it still be ongoing?
There might be. There definitely might be. And in fact, since while we're talking about this, let me share for Maria's talk, for Maria's thing, I'm going to go into this a little bit more. And oh no, that's not it. Okay. I have to, maybe I don't have it. But the guides have photos of like a rendering of the pyramid inside. And when I realized that when I came,
a mirror image of what's on the outside, Nan.
Very similar. Okay. This one is very similar. It's got the pyramid, the temple at the top. Yes. It's got the Chakmul outside, which is that recumbent being, which when I went in college, they told you that they ripped out the hearts of people and put the heart right on this guy's stomach. And now they don't say that anymore, thankfully. And Miguel Angel said, no, I said, okay, I know these beings, these are not beings, normal beings. These come from, and he said, yeah, these are Atlantean beings. And they put their hands around their solar plexus, and they're put outside the temples so that you understand before that you need to focus on filling your solar plexus with that sun. And that's outside the temple, inside. So when you were allowed to go in the inner temple, you climbed the big pyramid, and then you went down a metal staircase that was, of course, added now into the inner pyramid, which actually has that the chakmul, and then on the inside of the temple is this red jaguar throne with 52 jade spots. And I got to sit on that. The original is in a museum now. They do have another one there, but it's really actually almost mind-boggling to think, that there's a pyramid inside of another pyramid inside of another pyramid. And it wasn't because a culture conquered them the way the Spanish maybe took apart a pyramid and made a convent, or a church, which is very common around here as well. So, here we go. Let me share this with you real quick, because this is one of the cool things. And my where are you guys? Okay. My guide gave me permission to take pictures of these incredible, I'm gonna find, where are we? We are here. Okay, there you are. So many tabs. There we go. Okay. So let me find that. I think it's down here.
And this will be great, because anybody that wants to hear Nan, like we said earlier, you can stream Nan's talk and the other talks besides. So we'll be going from all ancient places across the world, from here that Nan's describing, on to ancient Egypt. Now, here we go, Nan.
Yeah. So this is what it looked like when they first found it. Okay. And I think it was around the 1890s, but people came, and then nobody paid attention, and then people came, and somebody owned it as a ranch, and it's got one of those interesting histories. So and this is the Kukulkan's pyramid. And this is what it looks like. So the one that we see is this one, and that's the one on the inside. And you can still, but they don't let you, go from this outer one down some metal stairs into that one, and then inside there. However, of course, they would go up, and you can see there's two doors at the bottom. This is a north-facing staircase. Directly across from it is the Temple of Venus. And it's at a very specific angle to create that beautiful, not exactly north, but it is facing north. And then now inside of that pyramid, they've known that there was one in there, but they have never tested it. So they're going to be using some new technology. And this is our guide, Tortuga, and he's sharing some of the long-skulled peoples that were found around here. And I know Maria's people, some of the other things they would do with their dental work. And this is what it looks like inside that inner temple pyramid. So Chakmul is this Atlantean being out here holding his solar plexus, saying, take in the sun. That's the key. And then you go inside, and then you can see the jaguar throne, and that's your heart. So like all the mystery schools I went to, even in Egypt, you embodied the temples, you embodied the pyramid, and the chambers were in your heart center and stuff. And this is the heart. So you have that red jaguar in your heart. That goes back to Lemuria too. So there's a lot. And that's what it looks like. Those were all jade pieces. So, and this is another artist rendering of, if you cut away the pyramid now, and you could see directly into that temple on the top, you'd see that there. So it'll be interesting to see what's underneath that, And then on this is actually the rattle of the snake. It's a heart shape. It's very powerful everywhere. But they had inside the temple the carving of the DNA, the caduceus, coming over you when you sat on that throne. So there's just everything. The other thing that's really quite amazing is, don't know if I have it here, easy to see, but when I was there, I didn't go for every day of 33 days. I live a few hours away from there. Oh, I lost Maria. But I went probably 12 days, I think. And okay, here you are.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. That was my Wi-Fi cut out, so I had to wait for a while. Apologies for missing what you were saying there.
Yeah, that's okay, no problem. Yeah, we were talking about how we're going to be going in and having this understanding that was the heart center. The red jaguar is your heart. That is what you want to embody. It's also the jaguar comes from Lemuria, and the Olmec. They're the ones bringing in now the newest incarnation is the jaguar and the serpent. That unity that we're talking about is coming together too. So what are some of the—
I've had dreams. Sorry, I've had dreams, Nan, about the white jaguar. So have you got any information about white jaguar?
Yes, I was like in the spring. I remember asking you that. I said, have you ever heard of a white jaguar? And you said, oh my gosh. And you told me about this incredible experience you had. Because what happened is in December, Miguel Angel contacted me and said, let's meet in person. And we started to work together. And after I had my Mayan birth chart done and Chris's, I started to do a series of 7 healings with him on the 7 bodies. And and I know that I'm a jaguar priestess. I'm a jaguar medicine woman. I've had all these incredible ceremonies and initiations, and I've been given the jaguar pelt and all kinds of things. But I was doing a healing with him once, and the white jaguar came, and she came inside of me, and it was just this very profound. And I came out and I said, what's with the white jaguar? Because you don't hear about that. And he looked at me like, oh, and he said, well, that's the mother, that's the divine mother. And he said once, I don't know how long ago, he was at a site, a site we're not going to be going to, with a whole group of Mayan elders. And they're, a lot of the Yucatecan ones, they don't have a coalition. They don't have a group like in Guatemala. They work independently. And but they came together to have a meeting, and they went to this one site, and they were all talking and whatever. And one of them just went, into another dimension and was taken and started going, oh my gosh, the white jaguar, she's there, the mother's there. And basically the whole pyramid, became see-through, and this huge white jaguar appeared, and it was the mother. And he said, he was taken in with her and given all this information around that. So that's what I know so far, other than my own personal experience since then. Do you want to share yours?
Well, what I really feel about my experience with white jaguar was like being guided somewhere, being shown something. So for me, in my personal experience, it was like having an honor to have this beautiful being saying, come follow me, to some regard, So that's what I felt. I felt every now and again, I kind of sense this presence, whether it's white jaguar opening me up to come to Mexico to be with you, because not long afterwards we started discussing, I thought going to Mexico is synchronicity, as many of us know, always connects people at the right time for the right experiences. So I feel there was a lot of meaning behind it, you and meeting. So how beautiful, how beautiful. And for me, for it to represent, the divine mother is absolutely heartfelt, because that is such a sacredness to be introduced to this incredible being.
Yeah. One of the things I love about the Maya is Ixchel is the most well-known of the goddesses that were remembered. But in like a lot of cultures, the women were erased. The fact that there were priestesses and queens and all of that stuff is very present and coming back now. But Ixchel is interesting because, again, they have this very strong understanding that they're the 13th element, basically. They're the center connecting these 3 worlds. And so Ixchel is the moon, but she's the surface of the earth, and she's the waters of the earth, and she's the crystals of the earth. And then the deep heart of the Mother Earth is grandmother Ishmukane, who is the jaguar grandmother. And she is my guide according to my Mayan birth chart. So she brought me here to do certain work. So yes, it's very, very profound, and they work together. There's these incredible carvings when you understand what things mean. They say the Temple of the Warriors, they're warriors of light. That's you and I. We have to battle our ego, right, to remember who we are. And then there's this one carving where this like warrior, and he's got all these trees, like branches growing out of him, and they have masks on all the branches, and it's all the masks of the ego. And there's grandmother Ishmukane. She's sitting down in the earth on a little throne, like on a little table, and she's taking them and she's molding them, like composting you back. She's taking your ego and she is molding and handing back the masks in a new way, or taking other elements from you if you say, please take this, and then almost like weaving, she like takes it down and then reweaves it, and then it comes back up to you. So there's this very strong presence of the divine feminine being really not just now, but a huge part of the culture, that it was not a separate, it was not a patriarchal society.
No, the best societies were never that, in my humble opinion. So we're talking earlier. It's really exciting that we are going to go to like the schools and like the colleges, and then go into the kind of ultimate university where hopefully we will be experiencing and having guidance through you and Miguel, to being able to literally enter the ancient universities of life, to be maybe even given something like a download, like an amazing experience. Because I know there are a lot of sacred sites, from the pyramids of Egypt that I go to many other places beside. It's like this download that you can get that really can be quite life-changing and knowledgeable and opening more doors.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the way that we do this is like it's like a journey. It's like you enter a cocoon and we go from one place to the next in a very specific way, connecting, and then you're going to have activations, and you're going to work in your dreams, and certain people react to different places, right? Different ways. And then you're going to go to the next place. And so there'll be that personal experience. That's really my favorite part, is that there's a lot of interesting information, but now we are at a state of consciousness where we can have our own communication with the stones. And one thing I love about Miguel Angel is when we first met, we were kind of talking, and I realized we really speak the same language, and I'm like, well, I talk to the stones, they have all this wisdom. And he goes, well, of course, stones, bones, they all carry memory, and they're just, these pyramids are just packed. Like he was like somebody shoving,
exactly how I've always felt about stones. They are, they do retain it, and in according to master dowsers, they can be not necessarily programmed, they can be enhanced to contain particular, like a chapter of a book. One could be on medicine, one could be on astronomy, for example. So I'm definitely on those pages about that for sure. And also doing it in the right way, in the right order, because sometimes I think when people go to ancient sites and they don't have key primary guides, those that know the land, those that live and breathe the land, that you can sometimes go in wrong ways, go through the wrong entrance, and almost kind of do things backwards. Whereas I love the idea that we are doing it in a correct order, in the correct manner, under immense wisdom keepers as well. I can't stress that enough about this tour. This is why I love working with Nan and experts alike.
Yeah. Well, so share a couple of things about why you wanted to come to Mexico, and why, from your perspective, why like Chichen Itza and some of these places have some very interesting energies.
Yes, well, being, going to Egypt many, many times, for example, certain pyramids have particular energies, and even its base shape, which is normally a square or sometimes an off square shape, that generates its own energetic patterns as well. It repeats an image of itself, and one side is masculine and one side is feminine. So I'm looking forward to seeing which side of the pyramid, energetically speaking, is going to be the masculine and the feminine side. Is it going to mirror ancient Egypt? Is it going to have something quintessentially from Mexico, from South America? This is going to be a kind of explorative investigation into the nature of pyramids, and then comparing them to pyramids worldwide as well. I've been to a pyramid in Sardinia, for example, a European pyramid, and even quite close to where I live, you have Silbury Hill, which is a step pyramid. And also I'd like to have a look at the earth energies beneath there as well. And you're mentioning rather the water witches, for example. I think that could be a metaphor for the very deep waters of Gaia's beneath the land. And when we look to other ancient sites worldwide, we see this, but sometimes in particular patterns, sometimes in not just like a spiral pattern, but united spiral pattern. And with my research, even with people like Richard Hoagland, Mary Bennett, on Mars and the pyramid on Mars, for example, what do we have beneath it? According to NASA report that I read, we have very deep water, even on Mars. So when we reflect at pyramids, I'm taking you now to a different planet
I love it.
and saying it's very, very similar. So I'm going to be looking at pyramids on Mars, that square base, even Elon Musk. And we all know who he is. He doesn't need any introduction. He wants to take people to see that pyramid on Mars, because we know that you do not have that perfect square shape. Also with pyramids, they're sometimes linked, as many magicians have told us, like Elvis Levi, who was a founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a mystery school here in England, that the seven wonders of the ancient world, from the Hanging Gardens of Babylon to the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau, they related to magic squares, and you can activate them through their magic squares. And I am sure that the pyramids of Mexico, through the eyes of Western white magic, maybe could add another understanding to the pyramids and energetic purpose, for example. So I'm going to be using my own kind of Celtic wisdom, my mystery school wisdom, to unravel some of the mysteries of the pyramids. And furthermore, because of my recent discoveries with earth energies equating to musical harmonics, we're going to be looking at Gaia's music flowing out and into these pyramids as well, and standing on them and experiencing Gaia's music, sound frequencies that are out of your audible range. They're called infrasound and ultrasound. And I know for a fact that most stone circles and pyramids release ultrasound. So we can explore lots of different levels and understanding, because the way I always see it is no one author has all of the answers. It's a discipline. Many disciplines add to the understanding. Just like in the ancient world, you'd have astronomers, geomancers, mathematicians, engineers, all coming together to build these wonders of the ancient world.
Oh yes, definitely. Well, and what's so amazing is, like, I know, like, one of the things that you talk about with Stonehenge is how people think, okay, it's a summer solstice sun type of marker, but that really was probably originally oriented more to the moon.
Definitely.
Right. And so as we become aware that there's many more things going on, it wasn't like one thing. One of the most amazing things that I found when I was going in March, I went 12 days, I think, out of the 33 days. I went there to Chichen Itza, and I was waiting in an office to go to Old Chichen for the private group to get escorted over there. There was just me and like 3 other people, and the guides were talking, right? So it was the lunar eclipse in March the night before. And I was in my hotel room looking at the observatory at Chichen Itza right there. And the lunar eclipse is happening right above me. And so I have my pictures, and all the guards that work there are comparing pictures on their phone. I'm like, what do you got? What do you got? Oh, you got a better one than I got. I want that picture. Well, guess what? The night guard, he can go anywhere he wants. He was out there. He has a picture with the stars above the pyramid and the full moon doing the same thing, creating the serpent. So they had the moon.
Wow. So the moon can create that same serpent, like that's incredible. I've never heard that actually.
No, I had never heard it before either. I looked at him and I said, "That's the moon?" And he said, "Uh-huh." And I said, "And you know that happens?" He goes, "Well, yeah, it's a night guard." I'm all like jealous, and I'm like, I really want to get in here. Can I come at night? No, you have to go talk to the government. Are you sure? But I took a picture of his phone, like of that, and I'll make sure and show that another time. But it is really quite stunning that. And then there's all these other places, but since they only let you in at 8:00, how do you see that, right? On the summer solstice, exactly half of that pyramid from above is dark and the other half is light. And it's light on the north side if the northern hemisphere is in the longest day, and it's the opposite when it's the winter solstice. And then there's the ball court that's behind it that has all this stuff where people say they play ball games. And there's these little windows.
Now, just to stop you with the ball games, I've never really bought into that. It was just for ball games, because it looks like a structure, so to speak, on the ground. So what's your take then on the so-called ball games?
Yeah, so, the ball game, they did play a ball game, but it wasn't played in the way that they say. They say, oh, you competed, and then if you won, the captain got their head chopped off, and it was an honor. And so don't worry about it. That's how they tell the tourists, right? And I never understood that. I never bought that. And it's not. So the Chichen Itza has the largest ball court. Every site has ball courts. Every site has ball courts, because it's it's a temple of initiation. All of these are temples of transformation. And in Chichen Itza, there's this huge carved panel along the bottom of one side. There's the hoop, which is basically the Ouroboros, right? That they supposedly threw that. So it's the serpent eating it, the eternal circle. And then above that structure, there's a little window. There was probably more, but that's what's left. It's like a little doorway. Well, you don't know this either because nobody let you in. But Miguel Angel showed me pictures. He said, oh, yeah, the sunrise. So the sunset on Chichen Itza creates the serpent coming down Kukulkan's pyramid. On the sunrise of the same day, it comes over through that door on the ball court, and a shadow cuts down that wall right through the hoop, and right onto that decapitated head that they're holding. But the guy is holding his own head, and he chopped his own head off. And so all the warriors are facing him because he has reached the point of initiation where he's ready. He's prepared. He's got his feathers. He's got all of his initiations, and he kneels down and he's cut his own head off. And the shadow from the sunrise comes right down there over that head and then goes up the other side. And so what does that have to do with playing a ball game? I mean, they have this whole story about the king sat down there to watch the ball game. No sites is there seats to watch the ball game. There's no seating, like that. And then what you see is coming out of his neck, a tree is growing, 6 serpents. So 6 of your chakras come up and come out like that, and they're serpent heads. And 7 comes up the middle and grows this huge tree with flowers and fruits on it. So that's what happens when you get rid of your ego. Yeah. You can finally free your true purpose, your kundalini, your energies, and you can become this fruitful tree. You can become the contributor to the fruits and flowers of the world. So it's really amazing.
That's very beautiful. And I'm really glad that I asked that question, because it's been one of those, oddities where, again, it's not the truth. There's always that sacred, holy history behind what you're often spoon-fed, rather. So it sounds to me like the chakras, they kind of, open up and they blossom. And then on the seventh one with the tree, you are your higher self. You have really kind of gone to that high initiation level.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there next to that is this thing called the tympanium, I think you say it, and it's a small temple, and it's covered in carvings of skulls. And they tell the story that they chopped off all these people's heads and they stuck them on sticks, all over this thing. But when Miguel Angel was there, he said he went and investigated, where are the heads? Where are the skulls? Where are the tombs? And he couldn't find a single person who had ever found a skull anywhere near that temple. So, and they found some other statues that were buried there of some other sacred things. So again, it's representative that you move around the temples, around the main pyramid. And when you get to a certain initiation level, you do that. And then you have lost your head, your ego, and you move past that to the Temple of Venus, and then you can move into the light warriors and so on. So yeah, it's actually one of the most beautiful cultures I've ever really had the privilege of getting to go deeper into. And I love the idea that we get to share that with people. We get to really not just bust those myths, but give them, because people come and they feel it. They feel the love. They feel that profound beauty. And then you're told all these horrible things. So.
Well, in a way, the carvings are like a metaphysical language that if you have the right person to decode it and to explain the hidden meaning behind it, and that's what we will have. And that's what I'm looking forward to, understanding the truth of this ancient civilization. And they were an ancient civilization that knew the land and knew how to create these beautiful, eternal pyramid structures, and more besides, like ball courts and pyramids within pyramids. I mean, the legacy they left is just astonishing.
Yeah, it is. And when you realize how much isn't even uncovered, and that they're digging the train and they're finding caves that have 10 more books, and we had 10 books total before of codexes because they were burned. Yeah. Now we have more. They're finding pottery with paintings on them, like Greek, like the ancient Greeks, that you can really understand so much from that to see. And then around the Kukulkan's pyramid, you'll see a little bit of it's flat, but then you see down where they started to excavate a whole other temple that's beneath the ground there, that was in a completely different style. And a lot of these temples that I go to are very, very small parts of them are excavated or cleared from the jungle. And one of them that I'm going to talk about on your conference, Sibyl Shaltun, is the sun rises in the temple on the equinox and comes through and gives you a solar initiation in your third eye. And I was walking, I go there all the time. It's an hour from my house. And sometimes I go just walk around and talk to the Alush, to the nature spirits. I say, where do you want me? And I've discovered that whole thing looks like we're on ground level, that we're actually on top of an enormous acropolis. That wow. You can look down one side in the jungle and see the side going down. And so these were built up for those earth energy reasons you talked about. They've got the roads, the sacred roads aligned with, we've got the solstice, we've got the equinox, but also with the different ley lines, different earth currents and things like that too. So yeah, I'm so excited too, because I'm always bugging Maria about, like, I'm going to this pyramid. What do I do? How do I find out what's happening here and what's going on there? And so I've
got a question for you. Okay, yeah. So you live there. It's huge civilization. I mean, it sounds like it's you know, city after city. Do you think we have just scratched the surface and there are large numbers of lost cities yet to be found?
Oh,
What's your take on that?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because when you understand the history of the Maya, like I wasn't even told there were Mayans when I was in grade school. You know, as a kid, it was like, hey, there's an Aztec and they killed people. Okay, yeah, that was it. So the wisdom is coming up, the understanding. There's living Maya. There's 57 dialects. You know, there's two main, Guatemalan and Yucatecan, but many of them don't even know their own history, their own culture, because it was only a few years ago that the Mexican government made it legal for them to teach their language in their
That's
own
shocking.
schools.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. I went to the museum and I saw that on a display and I started crying. You know, it's like now legal for them. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps. I just saw a news report a week or two ago, or before I left, that the first Mayan child, full blood Mayan child, was born and named with a full Mayan name. Now, if you're familiar with the Spanish culture, the Mexican culture, they have many, many, many names.
Okay.
They have their mother's name and then they have their father's name and then they have, you know, it goes on and on. And it's a tradition and they blend them both. They may have a Mayan name and then they'll have their Spanish name. But this was the first person in I don't know how long who was literally born into their culture and named 100% little girl. You know, and so it's very profound that these cultures, and not here, just here, but the jungle is so thick that you know, Cancun, people know Cancun, but you know, Cancun only started in the 1970s, 80s, you know, like it was nothing there, because you'd get to the peninsula and it was just jungle, you know. And then there was 50 years when the Mayans said, come on our peninsula, we're going to kill you, because of the caste wars, because of everything that happened. You know, they kicked out the friars. And so you have this very volatile history, just like many colonialized places. And yet you have underneath the jungle, unlike in Egypt, where maybe under the sand, but you can see, hey, I think there's something there. Here, we used to climb the Koba pyramid and we'd look out over the jungle and it'd be like, oh, there's a mountain, there's a hill, and I started realizing that's a pyramid. It's got trees growing out of it. It looks like a hill, but it's a pyramid. And the roads that went. So just in one or two sites alone, there can be thousands. And they covered the whole peninsula.
And you said there was like 50,000, or was it 5,000?
Around, well, Miguel Angel says he thinks 4,500 to 5,000 in the Yucatan, but that's probably extremely low because of the LIDAR. And because of the Mayan Train project, which the government's put a lot of money into, they are excavating new sites really quickly now. And I went in March to a new site where the pyramid is, what did I tell you, is only a couple feet shorter than the Giza Great Pyramid. And they just it's way down near Belize. And they've just cleared that site, and pretty much really nobody knew about it, but they had the LIDAR pictures, you know, there, so you could see like, oh, we saw that. And in Guatemala, they've discovered 2 or 3 new cities that they believe had 2 million people, and you know, 28 major pyramids and outlines temples, and it's really stunning. And the priestesses were taught, and I'm sure the others, but I know about the priestesses were taught when they knew, you know, they knew that their culture was going to be conquered. They knew that this was going to happen. Just like everybody, they didn't know how, but they were the best timekeepers. They had, I don't know, 20 some calendars and all interlocking, you know, to understand time. And they could prophesize all the way till now. And by the way, another myth is they did not say the world was going to end in 2012. That was some white person who everybody said, let's all say that. And they were over here going, no, we didn't say that. It's the end of a cycle. So a lot of people were like, well, that was silly. So, but yeah, the amount of information that's available. And of course, you know, they're going to now finally going to have some of these things in Merida, which is the city near where I live, which was a Mayan city. It's over 500 years old, just colonial wise. And they're going to finally, everything used to go to Mexico City. So now they're going to take all these new things and they're going to be there in the Mayan land. So it's going to be more and more. And I'm very happy to say that I just was in London and I went to the British Museum and I spent 3 hours in the Mayan room. There's one room, Mayan and Aztec, and it has all of the panels from Palenque, from Yaxchilan, which was the priestess initiation site. It's an island, and they vibrate like, they're the originals, and they're all this guide showed up, this woman taking some people in the British Museum on a tour, and I had to leave the room, bite my tongue, because I wanted to. No, that's not right. So
yeah, and one other fundamental question for you then. A bit like, places like Stonehenge and the pyramids, we're all told it's a particular date, it's a date, and that's when we think they were being built. And in some of the pyramids, they're given quite a late date in the historical record. What's your take on the age of these pyramids?
Yeah, it's, I'm with you. I don't agree with it. I've actually, I used to watch these very interesting sort of university videos of people who came, artists. Just one woman who came to Copan, which is in Honduras, is a huge site. And she was called because you couldn't develop film back then in the jungle. And she spent years drawing everything as they were excavating it. And then she was 40 years later, they had her go back again, to see it. And there's several women who dated some of these sites 10, 15,000 up to 40,000 years old, and lost their jobs because they would not back down on that. And so typically they'll say Chichen Itza's, I don't know, 800, 80.
It's very late in the kind of archaeological record.
Yeah. And they go back, they'll admit up to 3,000 BC. However, it doesn't match up. It's very quickly becoming difficult to make sense of it because, of the false manipulation of the desire to control the dates in so many countries to support their religious and political agenda story or whatever, right? But they don't match up. It's starting to become very incongruent to that.
Exactly. Well, I'm on that page as well. I think that we should question and we should, look at the evidence, like these artists who were there. I mean, this is another thing. They were there. They were recording the situation. They were recording the excavation. Yet their voices are silent. Same at Stonehenge. The chief archaeologist said the Henge bank was made like this, but the eyewitnesses were saying no. It's not like that. It looks like it's laser cut. So it's the same narrative. It's about, controlling our history, controlling the history of humanity. These, it's about humanity. And when we go back into the past, it becomes more and more astonishing because of the wonders and the technology that they had, and the understanding of the earth energies, the sun and the moon and the stars, and it can go on and on and on in layers. And so, well done to those ladies for sticking to their truth and not being pressurized. I'm a hats off and in gratitude to people like that. It truly is.
Yeah. I think it's changing so fast, with the new technology. With more and more people being able to have access to it who aren't necessarily from certain scholar, schools and certain controlling environments where they're worried about losing their job, if they say certain things. So I don't know. I think it's going to just blow everything out of the water because the Maya, it's in their culture. You go to these places, you see people who look like they're in spaceships and have helmets and carved, you see people who are clearly coming from other places, and they are like, well, yeah, we came from the Pleiades, and here's what happened, and then we came from Atlantis, and we brought that information too. And they, at least in the Yucatan, they built the pyramid ceremonial centers based on Atlantean temples, is what they actually say. So it's a very interesting, and it's one of the reasons I'm so fascinated with Itzamal, is Itzamna comes and talks to me a lot, and having that wisdom. It's like when I worked with Thoth, to understand those mysteries of how we understand from the Emerald Tablets that he came and put certain things encoded and buried and so on. It's the same thing here. And that wisdom is rising now. So yeah, and the cenotes everywhere, water caves. The whole peninsula is full of water caves. And the Mayab means, when they came, he said, "What's the name of this place?" He said, "It's the Mayab," which means the land of the few, the land of the chosen ones, and the land of light. And what I was told, and then verified through several different elders, was that Maya is a state of consciousness. They actually come from Maya in the Pleiades. And it's a state of consciousness that we all can access. You don't have to have a certain DNA. You don't have to have a certain skin color. You don't have to be born here. That you are Maya. And so my priest says to me, "You are Maya. You chose to come now, and you chose to awaken." And that's what the chosen ones mean, is to remember that we have this wisdom. So I believe that all these places are offering that to anybody who feels called to go.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm in the sun and I'm hot for the first time since I got to England.
My apologies.
I am such a wimp. It's unbelievable. I've been living in Mexico for 10 years now. So,
freezing.
But well, come and join us. We already have some people signing up, and we are going to have an amazing time. And is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, thank you for sharing the way that we're going to be moving around the monuments in the correct manner to understand our own consciousness and to learn from such great guides like Miguel. So I'm really honored to be a part of this, and welcome people to join us and to experience the mysteries of these wonderful places.
Yeah, and I'm excited to go with you because of your wisdom, of all these other places, your understanding of the earth energies, your understanding of the pyramids. And so I heard you say one day that they're all connected. And I was like, see, I knew that. Like when I first came here, people would come to me, some of the Maya that I would work with, and they said, "Oh, you're going to Mujil. Oh, okay. Well, the top of that temple, that's a portal to Egypt." Like that's just what it is. And they would show me that the light comes and that it goes and connects, and there's pyramids underwater outside of Japan, underwater outside of Jamaica. They're all over the planet, and they were really all a network for sharing, I think, energy, but also light, like for raising our consciousness and keeping our consciousness high, or helping us get back there now. So it's going to be really fun to have your perspective and your wisdom and your knowledge of the energies. And Maria's going to come a few days early. I've convinced her so we can go run around and discover some more secrets for you. And I always find that people who feel called to come to these, your energy contributes dramatically to what happens. As the group forms, other ideas will come, other doors will open. With Miguel Angel, I'm like, can we do this? Can we get private access here? Could we do this here? And he says, we're going to see who our friends are, like it's that we're going to go into the moment. And I've been on these places where we've gotten invited to go into temples nobody goes into ever, because we were there at the right time with the right people. So who knows what doors you are meant to come and open. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll be sharing some more, but please reach out to Maria, reach out to me, and share this with anybody else who you think is interested. And make sure that you sign up for the live stream, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more about that. And you want to hear all about Maria's pyramids and more of these energies too. Thank you, sweetie. I love you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a beautiful night. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Mark. Take care, and we'll see you soon.